want to make sure your plea is given voluntarily, and I want to make sure that you actually committed the crimes to which you're pleading guilty, because I don't want you to plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason they don't accept your plea, then it is possible that your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes. With that, Bryan Kohberger pleads guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Drew Carney. Kohberger's plea started less than 2 hours ago. The hearing lasted roughly 45 minutes. We saw him today in court wearing a shirt and a tie and sitting with his defense lawyers. Family members of his victims were also present in the courtroom. Just a moment ago, we heard the judge as he made sure Kohberger understood the exact terms of his plea deal. He had to plead guilty to all 4 murder charges, and he agreed to waive all rights to appeal. By agreeing to plead guilty today, he gets a sentence of life in prison without parole, but he also gets to avoid the death penalty. The state also had a final chance to lay out details of its evidence today and recap the case against Kohberger. Then, just before 11 o'clock, he officially pled guilty.
With respect to count 1, burglary felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, murder in the first degree, as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonsalves, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first-degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first-degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Right. The court will find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and each offense and the possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. The court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea and finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. I'll continue the matter for sentencing in this
Kohberger's
case.
official sentencing is set for July 23rd. The judge said setting the date 3 weeks from now ensures family members of the victims have a chance to make impact statements. The judge did keep a gag order in place, which means the prosecution and defense couldn't speak to the media. But outside the courtroom, we heard from a family member of one of the victims who says he feels failed by state prosecutors.
You don't think 4 life sentences is justice?
No, of course not. It's daycare. Prison is daycare, people.
Steve, if you could tell the judge one thing today, what would it be?
Do what's right. Do what you know. I mean, 4 people died in their sleep. You know, if we had 4 other people that weren't college students, this would be the death penalty.
It was a bit of a different reaction from the family of one of the other victims, Maddie Mogan. They shared a statement today that read in part, "The plea deal the prosecution has proposed is one that punishes the perpetrator of this horrendous crime, protects the public from further harm, and allows all of us who knew and loved these 4 young people the time to grieve without the anxiety of the long and gruesome trials, years of appeals, and potential for mistrials along the way." So here's a recap now of the timeline in this case. It all started back on November 13th, 2022, when the 4 victims were found stabbed to death in a house just off the University of Idaho campus in Moscow. Investigators determined they had been killed just after 4 in the morning. A month later, on December 30th, the FBI took Kohberger into custody at his parents' home in Pennsylvania after investigators linked his DNA to a knife sheath that was left at the crime scene. Last fall, Kohberger's trial was moved from Moscow to Boise, and the trial was set to begin this August. In April of this year, the judge ruled the state could pursue the death penalty, and that ultimately led to today's plea deal.